Yo, what's happening, fellow van builders? It's Scott. Welcome back to Vandingo. For this video, I'm just working on the routing of the DC to DC charger positive and negative lines from the starter battery back to the house batteries. So I've been rooting around to figure out, should I go up and over internally and down to the house batteries and connect there into the Victron system, or do I put it up underneath the van and then come up in a spot up through the floor and route it that from that perspective? So I'm still sort of scratching my head on this one. This video won't necessarily have a final conclusion, but I did want to show you kind of what I'm messing with so you can get a sense. If you've got a Sprinter van, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a Sprinter van, it can be any of the brands, how you route your power lines is, I think, somewhat strategic, because if you have to go back in and do any repairs, if you want to avoid any sort of wire casing, the insulation on the outside of your wires, avoid any of the sort of abrasion that can occur if you're inside the van. And then conversely, if you're outside the van, underneath, are you going to find yourself in a situation where, you're splashing up all kinds of, water's probably not an issue, but splashing up rocks, or you could run into situations where you're whatever you're doing with your van from an off-road perspective, or even driving over gravel, if you don't protect those lines underneath the van, you could run into a situation that would be compromising your electrical system. So I think I'm headed more towards routing under the van, and I found, I think, a way to do it. I'm going to share that in this video. So let's get after it. All right, so remember, our Sprinter van battery is up underneath here. So to get to it, we're going to pull up this all-weather mat, pull this aside, and we got to get the appropriate Allen screws to pull that up. So let's do that. All right, so let me retract what I said about an Allen wrench. It's actually a Torx fitting, and it's a T30 is the appropriate size. All right, so we got the battery cover off, and I think one of the things to note here is inside of here, this is a plastic box. So these are there's four of them. These are the Torx fittings or the Torx screws for just the lid of the battery box. There's four more on a Sprinter. This one there, and one here. You can take this whole box out. So I think that's what I may end up doing. Just as a reminder, we've got quite a bit going on right here already, because I've got the Cascadia off-road front hood panels, solar panels, and those are connecting in here. And I had to do a little bit of expansion by putting a shutoff at a terminal, essentially. So I'll have to remove all of that and remove this and take all of this out of here in order to obviously get to the battery box. And down here I've got room on each side of the battery. So mainly on that side, on this far side. So I'm going to look at that underneath because I think that makes a difference. If I put a gland down here, just like any entry-exit gland, and run the wires down that direction, and then all the way to the back to the electrical power plant, if you will, that's got some possibility. So let's look underneath and see if we've got room. By the way, before we get underneath, just so you know, this is the positive and negative that's going back to the DC to DC charger. And I've got that strung sort of all along the floor of the van at the moment, which is quite the mess. all the way back. I'm charging up my other lithium battery because I haven't charged it since I purchased it. And it goes all the way back to that DC to DC charger back there. So that's a messy situation. I got plenty of wire. As I said, I could, sorry, got the drapes in the way here. I mean, what I could do is I could go underneath the floor up here, all the way up here to the top, come out there, go along here, and then all the way down across the back corner and then back down to the power plant, if you will. That's a lot of stringing around, and I'm not sure it's necessary. So anyway, that's what we got going on right now. Everything is operable, which is good. Charging my batteries when I'm driving the vehicle. So that's all good. All right, so we're underneath the van, and that is the battery box right here. You can hear the plastic on it. And there's some, actually, it's good to understand this. There's some insulation on this side, which makes sense because there's a transmission right there. You see the fins of it. That's a transmission. Certainly you got the drive shaft here. It's interesting. Mercedes got loose sort of exposed wire right here. Anyway, I could come out of the battery box right there on this end with a gland, or down here, you know, as long as I've got room for the gland to fit in there. So this battery box will come out. I got an interesting to see here. I've got screws I got to pay attention to right down here. See those? If I were to remove this battery box, those screws are going to have to be loosened up. And let's see, is there anything else? Yeah, I don't see anything else. I could also come straight down right there with a gland. I think that might also be an option. Then you could route the wires up here and then to the back of the vehicle. And then speaking of the back of the vehicle, you'd run them all the way down here. And you put some, like a conduit protector, flexible conduit protector all the way down. So you could come, this is fuel line right here. Keep it away from the fuel line, tuck it back up, and then head all the way down the chassis, connecting along the way, because there's these little holes here that you could put zip ties in and get it all the way down to the back of the van. Let me show you what's going on down there. So assuming from way up there you've routed appropriately and you bring your wires back along here, keeping them out of harm's way, when you get to right here, this is interesting. That's hollow. And I've heard, I'm not sure if that's the case with the Sprinter, I've heard that is an area that can relieve pressure when you're closing and opening doors inside the van. So you could drill a hole through that, put a grommet in it, and bring your wires, DC to DC chargers, up through the floor and back to the charger. If we just follow that to right here, because I've checked on the other side, right in through here and down in that corner, there's an access hole that goes down to that, I don't know, about 4-inch round piece of plastic. So assuming we could fish the wires up through there, you know, and then route them back along there in the back to the DC to DC charger, which is mounted right here. On my particular van build, it's mounted right here. So that's a good option. All right, so what do you guys think of that option? Underneath the floor, or bring it out here and take it all the way up and over. Talking about up and over here, tucking it in all along here, and then you take it over here and drop it straight down. Same where that wire run is, and drop it straight down to the DC to DC charger up under there. So I don't know. On the one hand, doing it internally, you don't have to mess around with drilling that hole underneath the van or putting the gland in, entry gland in the battery box. But on the other hand, if you picture there's going to be a shower here, if you ever had any issues with the wiring along there, and the other thing too is I've got one of those circular max air fans I'm thinking about putting right here too. So I'd have to route the wires to stay out of the, harm's way of that. But that's probably shouldn't be an issue. We can route them along here and then tuck them back in here all along the way and then drop them down. So yeah, I'm not sure. Just one of those things that makes you go, All right, so here's where I'm asking for some advice. I'm going to either route it internally or I'm going to put it underneath. I'm going to do it here probably in the next, next week, because I like to get that done and get it out of the way. It's sort of ridiculous. It's been laying in here. The shower's got to come up out of the ground, and we got to get the rest of this framing done and get off to the races. So I think as I sit here today, I'm kind of leaning towards doing it internally, because then I don't have the gland in the box, which is no big deal. It's just extra steps, probably. It's that versus tearing this whole piece off, which I've already, comfortable and experienced doing when I took the headliner down. That's in a separate video on the channel. So, but there's a lot of room internally in here, and you could easily pin that to the wall, pin it appropriately, and move it back into the frame of the van and drop it down, and then hook it up and be off to the races. So I'm tending towards the internal approach. What do you guys think? Put something in the comment section if you got some advice for me. I've not done one of these, so let me know what you think, and we'll get to installing. Hey, thanks, appreciate it. Look forward to the comments. If there's any guidance out there, please give it. Otherwise, probably plowing the internal approach. So as I said, this is a quick one. If you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button. Put that thumbs up on the video. Hit that bell, and you'll be signed up for the notification of other videos to come. And I appreciate you tuning into Vandingo. Be good. Bye-bye.